blind-eyed nose, I'm on the tip of your tongue, cause I'm in your head. Instead, I'm hung by the neck, yo. Check me if I'm dead. I use my post like a drum loop. Dumb, stupid, foolish feelings are felt by your group. So look around, look alive, good looking. Give me 5. I could come as a pleasant greeting or a fist. There's no defeating this kid. Look at what I done did and what I'm doing. I'm chewing the fat, spitting it back in the form of a rap. It's the form of the rap, so now you know not to frazzle with me. You get frizzy hair, feelings of despair, no longer hostile. With your snotty nostril, the blood drips from the other. Word mother starts hover, rotating like cartoons. You're hating me forever, like bad weather. You're checking the dark cloud that follows you, swallows you, cause the evil energy defeated. From a child you breeded, but you don't need it, it's preceded. Hit me in the face, why don't you?
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The House List. I'm your host, Peter Agostin. Thank you for tuning in. This is my weekly podcast. We got a great guest today. My man, Mr. Complex, is in the house tonight, or today, depending on when you listen to it. If this is your first time listening, thank you very much. I appreciate it. You can find the House List on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play. And, you know, my guest and I go way back. So it was really a treat to talk to him because I didn't sit and talk to him in a while. And I'd just seen him perform here in Brooklyn. He's got a summer residency at the Kings County Distillery in Brooklyn, kind of by the Navy Yards, 299 Sand Street in Brooklyn. And I caught his set, so I wanted to talk to him about that, the residency, as well as, what he has going on, because he just put out an album as well called Forever New, which he also directed like several music videos for. We talk about that in the conversation, but yeah, he just recently put out an album a couple months ago in 2017. Yes, Forever New, Mr. Complex. And if you are in the New York area on Sunday, July 16th, that's the next date of his summer concert series at the Kings County Distillery here in Brooklyn. So me and Plex go way back. If any of you guys remember my Culturama music video collection, compilation, he was on the very first one with Visualize, which was the flip side, the A side of the record that we heard in the intro, and which was a big record for sure. So, and he gave me videos over the course of the Culturama catalog, and he's been making films and music videos ever since. In fact, he's a great director and works as a first AD on a lot of film projects, movies, and TV. And we go into that. I wanted to get a sense of his career as a whole because he has an independent record label that he's had since back then. He has been putting out music videos since back in the day. So it just he's a great artist, and yeah, I was even trying to remember what else we worked on, and it came to me like that I was hired by him and we collaborated, and I worked as the publicist actually for Hold This Down, which was his album that came out in 2001. And it actually, if I'm not mistaken, the release date was slated for September 11, 2001. So we talk about that whole period of time in New York and everything before and after. It was actually a really great conversation. So if you've been wanting to reconnect with his music, this is a really good excuse to, that's for sure. I went back to the Complex catalog, which was like his first compilation of all the singles, because Plex, if you aren't already super familiar with him, kind of came out of this hyper-productive indie underground 12-inch scene of the late 90s into the early 2000s, and he put out a compilation on his own label, Core Chords, called the Complex Catalog. It's a great starter if you're not hip to his music. And, of course, the new album, Forever New, 2017. So, yeah, we're right about to get into that. I would be remiss, though, to not say rest in peace to the one and only Prodigy from Mobb Deep, of course. And it's a terrible loss, a huge loss. I know this episode will post a little bit of time after he's passed, but I wanted to make sure to say that because we recorded it basically a day or two after. And during that time, like many, I submerged myself in his music, and it was really a tough loss for such a inventive and hyper productive artist too. So I mean, from authoring books and movies and records and everything in between, and his own label too. And I'm a fan of anyone that has their own independent label or does things on an independent hustle, because that's exactly what we do here at the Houseless Podcast. So permanent salute to Prodigy and all the Mobb Deep fans and Prodigy fans out there too, because I know it's a collective loss and a major one for all of us. So I wanted to say that before we went ahead with this episode. So let's see, without further ado, let's get into this convo with me and Mr. Complex, my man Plex, only on the Houseless. And don't forget to subscribe or rate this. If you listen to it on SoundCloud, please repost it on SoundCloud. It's a great way to get this out there, especially because we're doing it on the DIY level, very underground. I want to get the word out, so let's do some word of mouth shit if we can, and let some cats know. If they're fans or friends of Mr. Complex, old collaborators, be like, yo, check this out. You know what I'm saying? So without further ado, let's get into this combo, and I'll catch you guys on the outro. Thanks. I've known you for a pretty long time. Over the course of that whole time, you've had like this record label that you started like at the your very first record, which you've Core Chords, which you've had like, that you've used intermittently over the course of your whole career. And I was just trying to think like what would be a good way to even start this combo too, because we've worked on different stuff, and you're like have been active in both film and records, like for the better part of the last 2 decades. One thing that I've just found like that I think is really cool about what you do is just that you've had this business, this like independent sort of production business in a way, and just like really wanted to figure out like what the inception of that was, and that because you've been able to rely on it here and there for one reason or another over the course of your career, like maybe using that very first single as a way to, because I think most of the people that are listening to this might remember that record too, and I have a great deal of nostalgia towards that record as well, because I love that. I still go back to that quite a bit, and it's a great record. Against the Grain, and feel me, I'm rhyming against the grain. Yeah. So, how did you go about just coming up with that, and that like where you were like in your life at that point in time? Because this is like basically the early to mid '90s, right?
All right. So, at the beginning, when it was a stage where people were trying to get record deals, major deals. There wasn't so many, like, it wasn't really like independent. There were, but it wasn't like a popular thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Everybody was running the disc makers, if you didn't have a record deal. Right. And people were just doing this to show a major label, check me out. Yeah, and then try to work off getting signed.
Like a demo.
Right. It was like just a little bit more than a demo, And this, we didn't know, because we just had like the Fat Beats that just started maybe a year or 2 ago before I started my label. And then you couldn't run up to, it wasn't Hot 97. It might have. It was
WBLS.
It was BLS and Kiss. You know what I mean? And they just had Friday and Saturday nights raps, you know? And raps that got played in the daytime were pretty much crossover rap, major label stuff. Right. Not a bad thing of crossover. If they played an LL record, it wasn't like sound bad. It just made attention. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, just caught attention. But stuff that I was making, people were like, I did it to show people that I'm sure that there's an audience out there for stuff I'm doing. Because I was doing these radio shows, Bobitos and the Mayhems and the early, disc jock radio shows. And I was doing live shows places, and people were coming up to me. And I was getting caught in these magazines. So I knew there was an audience. Right. So when I pressed it up, I wasn't thinking at the time it was a business. It was just something I needed to do for a temporary moment.
Right.
You know, that's what I first thought. Until after months went by, and then you get a phone call, and someone says, "Yo, how many of these records you have left?" While I was out just passing them to anybody who cared,
Right.
you know. And I pressed up 300 copies of vinyl and 300 cassettes.
Uh-huh.
And then when I got a phone call, how many you have left? I got like 150. I want to buy them. And there was a distribution company who I was unfamiliar with, and he was upset that I didn't put a phone number or a contact, you know, because again, this was before, you know, a lot of the, you know, the Facebooks or
Absolutely.
easy to find
even
people.
email was still pretty primitive, like
Right.
in 94, 95.
Yeah. So I didn't think, but he got my number through word of mouth through about 4 different states in Canada, you know what I mean? So it was like, oh wow. And then he bought all those records.
What distributor was that?
It was Big Daddy distribution.
Yes, okay, yeah.
And then he called me the next day, said he needed another 1,000. Then the next day he needed
Wow.
another 1,000. The next day, so by the end of the week he needed 3,000 records, which I didn't have.
Right.
And the
You had
press
150.
Yeah, and to press up 3,000 records, you need, you know, little stash. So I had to reach out to a homie. He put up some money for me. I gave it back to him, you know. And next, you know, I was an artist and I was a label dude, you know,
Yeah.
which I didn't think or wanted to, you know.
Right.
But by the time the second record came around, I bumped heads with Rorschach, who also had a label.
Sure. What was it? George? Was
Yep,
that?
yep.
Yeah. George
And
Debut or something? No.
Summers.
George Summers. That's what it is. Yeah.
And he had an artist named J Live.
Right.
And I brought J Live down to the source, got him in Unsigned Hype.
Nice.
And that started his stuff.
For bragging rights or?
Yeah, I think so,
so,
brother.
right.
Right. And then, and you know, me touring, it's hard to, I didn't know the business that well. I had friends that also had records out. I ran with OC, who was under Search at the time. And Search's man, Mark, he managed me at the time. He brought me down to Rorschach.
Okay.
Really to work on beats originally, you know. And that's when I met Spinner. Spinner was sitting in the office, and Spinner was like, "Oh, I heard your record." And then actually, no, I started.
Yeah, I was wondering how the eventually, because you guys have collaborated a lot over the
Right.
years too. Like,
Right.
so it was just you walked into the room and he was already familiar
Yeah.
with the joint. Okay.
And then I started recording with Spinner in like '96.
Yeah, I mean, Visualize and Hit Me in the Face.
Why don't you?
Yeah.
yeah.
That's I mean, I listened to that this morning too. I hadn't listened to that record in a while and stuff, and it's a great. I mean, that was a big record too for the time. I'm
Yeah,
sure that
yeah.
they sold plenty of that record.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and actually, I think that's how I first met you too, because I was trying to figure out that because it was somewhere in between I'm Rhyming Against the Grain and Visualize because of the music video for Visualize.
No, I did a video. Remember, I did a video for Feel Me first.
Of course, yeah. You know what? I wanted to bring this out too because I actually have the VHS of Feel Me.
Play.
So
Not
what?
Your ordinary. Wow, dear diary, do your thing. Wow.
So I'm not sure if I got this from you before. Obviously, this was made well before Visualize.
Yeah.
So this is a VHS tape that you had given me at some point in time, many years ago, over 20 years ago, and I wanted to eventually get to this point too. But you were, I don't know if the music heads or the record collectors really are super familiar with the fact that you were a budding filmmaker at that time too,
Right.
And you were shooting stuff on. This is all like probably on
16.
Super 8, 16,
Yeah.
black and white and color.
Yeah.
And so I was doing this my Culturama music video kind of compilation thing, but I still don't really remember getting this. So can you describe, just because people obviously can't see this, it's basically like a compilation of your work, a sizzle tape, if you will, of your work at this time.
This is like, I think each film is on here. It's a bunch of short films.
I remember. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a working VHS player right now or a normal TV, but I remember Foreplay, that was the main film, right?
Yeah, that was my first film I made, and that was black and white. I directed, produced it, wrote it, edited it on 16 millimeter
Nice. You did the editing
film,
too?
cut it on Steinbeck, you know,
Very good.
before final cut.
Of course.
So-
Did you ever use an optical printer? Do you remember those?
No.
That was more. Maybe that was more for Super 8 editing and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. And then these other films, Not Your Ordinary Jack, I shot that one, and that one was directed by Dave Castellano, who recently, well, past couple of years, he did the Smalls family things.
I'm not hip to that.
It's the Smalls family little episodes he did on YouTube, where he had a white family reciting Biggie's lyrics.
Oh yeah.
And they were
Okay.
acting them out.
Right.
And he got very popular off that.
Amazing. So what was his role in this?
He wrote and directed this film,
Nice.
and I shot that one. And he's also an AD,
Right.
many films. He's been in the business since we left film.
Did you meet at school?
Yeah, we met in school.
You went to NYU or you went to
New York Film Academy.
Yeah, nice.
And mind you, we were real early film academy where I had 3 people in my class.
No way.
Yeah, and it was like I went at night, so it was maybe a 12-week program. I think the daytime was like 8 weeks.
Uh huh.
And I just stayed the whole year. They just bring me back to shoot other people's films.
Dope.
So all these other people were students, that maybe like I started in like 1 month,
Right.
and they might have started the next month. And because I was there, and you bump heads in the editing room or bump heads in the hallway, and people just came to me, and I was just helping people. I had a Blazer at the time, truck, so I was able to throw equipment in. I knew the
Nice.
city. Most people came here were from out of town.
Right.
So they were like, do your thing. She was from Germany, Berlin. Dear diary named Lisa, she was from DC, whatever. Winter from Germany. She, so many stories.
Yeah, I want to
But-
know about it too because I haven't seen this in a long time. I remember your movie Foreplay and Feel Me, the music video,
Right.
which now I regret not. I don't know why it was never on a Culturama thing because the first
I think it
Culturama
was.
thing, no, Just Visualize was the first thing that we did. That I'm pretty sure.
I remember filming you think was on there. But anyway.
Right. Anyway,
The other films, another thing I used to do when, this is again before internet, so when you wanted to look at headshots,
right,
people had to mail them in.
right.
You used to put ads in backstage,
Yeah.
and you would get boxes and boxes of headshots, especially if you had a New York address on it. So out of 4 milk crates full of headshots, all right, you can't see, it would be about 2 inches of, say, Afro-American headshots.
Okay.
And say if I wanted to tell a story of my peoples, I didn't have much of a choice. You know what I mean? Out of those few, just imagine how many would be good. But I would bring them in for an auditions, whatever. And the same thing happened with the next filmmakers. They was like, I'm trying to find a black girl, I'm trying to find a black guy. And what I was doing a little selfish was I was keeping them. I would take the headshots out.
To use for your film.
Yeah, using for my film, which is a little selfish. But
Hey, man,
I guess if you're in
it's
this
a dog-eat-dog
business
world,
and you're an actor, you should send more than 1 headshot.
Oh yeah, so there was just one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might need to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had a stash. Next, I was almost a casting, agency. So people came to me, was like, yo.
Wow.
So you look at these films, it's the same actress and the same actor.
Maybe that's why when I remember pulling this out of the stacks, I was like, these must all be your films. You shot these though, yeah.
I shot most of them.
With the DP basically.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And some of them, because they were student films, I didn't want to hog it. I was like, you shoot. But they came to me for help, and I was good with, a lot of it. So
Right.
that's what happened. And it's so funny, this was 95. So the same actress in all these films.
What was her name?
Candace.
Okay.
And she was also in the visualized video
Oh, the reporter?
reporter.
Nice. All right.
She also became my wife
Oh. Yes.
and my baby mama. So,
Okay.
so whatever. Crazy story. In that visualized video, the reporter, I don't know if I should tell this story. I don't
Hey, Go for it, man.
I don't
Wow.
care. The reporter, she wasn't my wife at the time, but, you know, I didn't know if we were dating at that time. 97? Yeah, we were. So, I needed a girl to play the lead. And originally was going to be Jean Grey. But she fronted at the last minute. So I had to scramble to find somebody, and I couldn't. I called a homegirl, and she's like, "Why don't you use my niece?" And her niece I'd known since she was a kid. I'm like, "How old is she?" You know? And she was 15 at the time. And I didn't have a choice. And she came over. They came over, and they put makeup on her. And I guess I was, you know, my 20s, so I had a baby face. So I didn't look that young. They made it look like she was, you know, late teens at least, you know. So I looked early 20s. So it didn't look that bad. Nobody said anything. Like, nobody knew, you know.
That's
I didn't
amazing.
tell, but nobody knew, you know. We didn't do anything, you know, out of order. But, but, you know, that was a little secret there.
Yeah, that's the magic of movie making.
Yeah. So then years go by, and I see that same girl, you know, late night in the diner, like, "What are you doing in here? How old are you?" 21. Years go by, I see you in the club. "What are you doing in here?" 23. I'm like, and she always with some dude that's like, and you just felt like, you know, it felt weird, you know,
Right.
You felt your age and all that. And then her aunt, who I was tight with in college, you know, I ran into at a show one time in Brooklyn around the corner from where she lived with Farrell and Mos Def, and she was like, "Corey," and I seen her, and I was just shocked, you know, in her appearance. And the next, you know, I went to look for her on Facebook, and I found the niece. And I was doing the math. I was like, "Well, the niece got to be like 30 something now." And then I hit the niece, like, "Hey, what's up? How you?" And was like, "Hey, what's happening?" Next, you know, we start talking. Next, you know, we're in a relationship.
Well, I guess, you know, later in life, you know, the age gap.
She's well 30 something at the time with a kid and all that.
Right.
So it wasn't like,
Of course, yeah.
and I wasn't thinking these thoughts when she was little.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But it was just so weird how the world go around.
Sure.
And then she said something. I remember when I was in your video, that other girl taught me how to put makeup on for the first time.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, that was my ex-wife taught my girl how to. You know?
Oh, man.
And it just was a weird, crazy, I don't know.
Well, when you've been like, you know, making films and doing art for that long, you know, there's, especially in New York City, there will be some some overlap along the years. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So, during the course of doing those records, though, you were always doing film stuff, though, right?
Yeah,
Was there ever really a lull when you were doing? I mean, obviously you've had a lot of releases, and you're, you know, had a pretty prolific recording career.
You know, it's funny, in the record on my new album called Journey, I tell the story. Like 95 was, you know, I put out my first record in 95, went to film school in 95. Something 95. Something was 95. I did something clever. I can't remember my rhyme. But after Visualize 97, I started touring heavy.
Right.
So then the film stuff got the back burner, you know. So then I paused on the film. And I was shooting all these short films from 95, 96, 97, and my own videos and, you know, a few other people's things. But when they got on hold, because I was going heavy, because then Polly came out, then my own stuff come out, and then I was touring with Farrell, so I was on stage every night somewhere. And I didn't know where I was. So I was still writing scripts, writing rhymes, but I didn't really shoot much. You know, I think I shot a short film in 98 with like...
What was that?
That was called Nothing Moves.
Okay.
I had Destroy in it. I had my ex-wife in it. Some other folks. It's funny, I see some of these folks in commercials and do things, some people disappear.
Right.
But then when 2000, after the buildings fell, and that Hold Us Down album came out 3 weeks after.
I know, because that's when we were working on that together.
Right, and everything just went kaput, you know?
Yeah.
So that's when I jumped back into the film world, like in 2002.
Right.
And
which that reminds me too, because I found this VHS tape, which is from that time as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Underground Up
and Desire, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So those are two songs that was on Hold This Down.
Right.
Hold This Down was a record that came out basically in the summer 2001, if I'm not mistaken, or
October.
in the it was after 9/11.
Yep.
Because we were working it, because I kind of came on board to work as a publicist for Hold This Down when I was living in California. Mm-hmm. And we'd stayed in touch doing the Culturama stuff, and I was writing for a bunch of magazines at that time too, and whatever. And I remember those were on one of the Culturamas too, the music videos too. But that was such a, obviously any records that came out, which actually also reminds me too, is in August of 2001. Is when I came to New York and shot the music video with my friend Wendy Morgan for the Jig Masters, Don't Get It Twisted, which you were in as well. You made a cameo in, yes, in the Brooklyn Promenade. We shot that on color 16 as well.
Was that was Sadat in it?
It was the one with Sadat X. Yeah, it was from Jig Masters' album Infectious. Song Don't Get It Twisted. And we had a night shoot. It was August. I remember even we had a couple different locations. We shot in the Bronx. We shot at that guy, Tikla. Do you remember that dude that used to be down with Spinna? He was like a keyboard player. They did a couple, I think that's what his name was. We shot on his rooftop in downtown Brooklyn, and then the Promenade, which you were in, and a rooftop in Chinatown, which the World Trade Center was in the background as well. We had like a party scene on a rooftop.
Rooftops.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was guerrilla, but it was. I mean, looking back, it was amazing because Landspeed owed the Jig Masters like $10,000 or something, and they couldn't really give them cash. So basically, they gave us their credit card to rent all the cameras with and get the van with, and it was like the era of like Freddie Fox going up in the spots like that. And anyway, I'm just remembering it all now because it was like summertime music video, and it was right before September 11th, and it was during that time that I think. Because I was living in California too, that you and I had been working on Hold This Down as far as getting the press copies out. That. Yeah. So because I went back. I mean, this was like maybe the week before. So, what was that time in New York for you like? Because you were living in Queens at the time, yes.
I was living in Brooklyn at the time.
Whereabouts?
In Bed-Stuy.
Okay.
And I remember that day. I didn't get out the bed till like 12 something. The phone was going off. So. It happened early. Turn the TV on, and it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I had friends, and you're trying to figure out, who needed help. I had a real close friend that was living in Staten, and he couldn't get home.
Right.
So I remember I had to meet him somewhere and drive him, and I drove past, like later in the day, BQE, and you could see across the water.
Wow.
And just smoke and the smell, and you just was like people were in there, you know what I mean? And it was like, was a crazy time. And back then you had to set up your album 4 months ahead of time.
Sure.
For the magazines, for every distribution. It wasn't like you can call people up, could you push, we want to switch the date again. It was too late.
No,
you know
it was
what I mean?
pretty much set in
stone.
stone.
It was set in stone. So 3 weeks later, an album come out. I had already overseas gigs booked, and all that. I remember getting on a plane and being like the only person on a big plane,
God, really?
And you get there, and you're like, all right, new album. You thinking that maybe I can get away, and it would be different. But over there, they were like, what was it like? Everybody wanted to know. They didn't care about an album,
No.
No. And then you started realizing that music, not to belittle it so much, but it's not really as important as life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Art is, it's a pastime. It's important, yes, but again, it's not changing lives to certain degrees. You know what I mean? It can influence people.
Yeah.
But it can't. My album is not going to pay your rent. My album's not going to, take care of any certain,
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I mean, using the term pastime is pretty interesting. It's pretty damn accurate in a lot of ways. I mean, obviously, music can really soothe a lot. It can take your mind off a lot of bullshit in life.
True.
It can get you, amped up when you need to.
Yes.
It can calm you down.
Right. And there's certain songs for everything. Then you start thinking about, what does my music do? Like, if you're a crackhead and you about to smoke some crack and a song comes on and says, "Don't smoke crack," you're not going to stop because that person said it in the song.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But
you might feel a little guilt, possibly. But you're not going to stop. Right.
No matter how good the song is,
Right.
you might feel, a certain way. But, and my hip hop was, I was being artsy, I was being creative. I wasn't telling you to go to school. I might have said, don't smoke weed, whatever. I had my things. I wasn't talking about killing cops. I wasn't disrespecting women so much, it's like, is my music important? Then you stand next to a building in Manhattan and you just look up and see how big these buildings are. And just imagine it full of people. And just imagine that coming down. And then you take your CD and you're like,
Yeah.
So
it definitely puts things in perspective.
Yes. And then when I had a show, my release party in Manhattan, nobody was going to Manhattan at that time.
Sure.
People were like, I ain't going. And there might have been like 100 people in SOBs when I was used to getting, packing out a spot.
Right.
And that was a time when people's spirits was also, that would traumatize a lot of people.
Oh yeah, the nation was broken. I can only imagine in New York it was beyond that.
Right. And that's when I had a falling out with Apani as well.
Okay.
At that party, she was walking around with an attitude, and I guess that played a part on her. And people were coming to me. It was like, "Yo, I was trying to do an interview with Apani, but it's like she's on her rag." And I'm like, multiple people came up to me. And she was coming to me like, "Yo, when you time you getting on? I want to leave." And I was like trying to be, cool about it, but then it got to a point where I couldn't take it anymore. I was like, "Yo, people are coming to me and like, yo." And then she just had a nasty attitude, and then we just sparked into something right when I was about to get on the stage. And I lost it, and we said some words. And then I didn't speak to her for years after that.
Have you guys come back around?
Yeah. But it was very hard, and I was being stubborn. But I was being stubborn for years, for a while, and she was doing her thing out of the country and all that.
Right.
But I was being stubborn just because, I was Aries. But,
Okay.
but when you get older and we spoke about it, and then we started a new poly, and then she resurfaced.
Yeah, because the original project was never really meant to be like an ongoing group, right? At the very beginning.
Right. Originally, it was because I was on that Rorschach. He had me on that contract.
Oh, well, and so what did that mean? Did it limit you somehow?
Yeah, I couldn't put out something for on another label, because I was under his contract.
Were you supposed to do an album with them?
Sort of.
Okay.
It was a production deal, but then I saw the way he was treating J Live.
Right.
Same deal.
Well, because J Live's album ended up like being shelved, and then there was different versions. This is the best part, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And then Seven Heads would eventually.
Yeah, and it was a thing that I saw. I even saw it, with Search was doing. It was like people were trying to sign these guys on the production deal,
kind of lock them in.
And then they was in control of the budget. When the budget comes from the major label,
right.
We'll pay the producer and get the album done. And these guys may not want to pay producers. They may want to keep money.
Yeah, I mean, it can work. I guess that way it can work in both in a good way as far as being efficient and getting the right producers, but you can see how someone could take advantage of someone very easily that way.
Right.
If all the money first is getting to them, and then they kind of divvy it up in a weird way.
If the hot producer was Buck Wild,
right,
and Buck Wild knows you got $250,000, and he's worth it. You know, not that much, but if he's worth saying, yo, just give me 10,000,
Right.
whatever he wanted, you know, he put in his work. You know what I mean? And if you have it, give, then that's what you need to do. If he's that producer right now that everybody's looking for,
Right.
So if you're like, oh, if I give him 10 and give him 10 and then give him 10, you know, so people were being funny with those production deals.
Well, it was a time when there was a potential to make a lot of money.
Right.
Producers made a lot more money then as well.
Yeah.
Everyone seemed to make a little bit more money.
But you as an artist, it wasn't even a manager.
Right.
You know, a manager, if you sitting with your manager and you like, yo, me and my manager, we got to divvy up this $250. You know, the manager so much can't tell you no. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the production deal, dude was in control of that, and I watched that with these other artists. So when an opportunity came up 2 times for me still under this contract, it was easy for me to switch the name on it, make it a group. Instead of me being Mr. Complex featuring Apani and Shabam, I just made up the group.
Gotcha.
So Polyrhythmatics was, we did a Japanese deal with Mary Joy for the same record, and then with Nervous, the same record, but Nervous was like, B-side as well, which led to the CD.
Right.
You know,
And Spinna did everything on that, right?
Spinna did everything except for one. You know, Jock Max.
Yes, Jock Max. Yes.
Yeah.
But Hold This Down though that was just your label, right?
Yeah, that was me label.
So how did you go? Now, I mean, obviously it's a different structure when you're not dealing with a production manager type of character, like, and you always been pretty much self-managed, or
yeah, I had managers here and there, but
okay.
I could name about a dozen of them.
All right.
But it's funny, like every project I had a different team around me,
right.
which also messed up with my, consistency, And you look at those people that were successful, they had the same manager since they was junior high school. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, there's something about that loyalty creates a lot of consistency.
Right, right. But every time I came around, I was learning,
Right.
I was like, when I dropped the Complex catalog, that was new for people to put out an album of most of the singles you've been putting out for the past 5 years.
Right.
You know what I mean? 5 years of singles plus stuff that I recorded that I didn't release. It's here, take it, just to have it together.
Right.
People are like, what are you doing that for?
I thought that record was great.
It was fine. But it was new for me to do that. And I got that distribution through Germany and in the States, But then when Hold Us Down came, I teamed up with Seven Heads.
Okay, yes.
And that was because he did the promotions. He had an office. He had know-how. And me,
West Jackson.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So me touring, doing shows, booking my own shows, booking my own tours, and I'm going for 5 weeks. It's hard to keep up what's happening.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? So I thought to do that with him would be wise. But again, he did some snake moves on me, and...
But in the moment, though, I think like you, that kind of community of artists in New York that you were a part of was like, it definitely was at its height around that time. I feel like the unity, and there was like a real kind of like, symbiotic thing going on between the likes of you and J Live and Spinna and Unspoken Herd and that sort of.
Mm-hmm. And also,
would you agree?
Yeah, it was. And even at the time, there was more. Like, I had my own office with Nobody Creative.
Oh, right. Yeah, on Broome Street, right?
No, it was on Lafayette.
Yeah.
Well, Lafayette and Broome.
Corner. Yeah, I remember going there one time.
Yeah. And inside the office, Nobody Creative was Tim and Frank. Frank is a film director now. And another label, Def Jux.
Right.
They started in there, too. So
really?
I was sitting next to Jesse, who was running the Def Jux label.
Oh, right.
And... I watched them with the first album, second album, third, the Mr. Lift, the
Cannibal Ox,
ASAP,
Yeah.
And I watched them. They was consistent, bow.
Oh, very consistent.
Yeah, so while I was trying to do my own, you know, put an album out myself. I had assistants every now and then, but you know, it was crazy.
But you sort of been this. It's kind of funny when you think back to the film stuff too, because you kind of, even with the records, it's like the way like an independent filmmaker gets stuff off the ground. It's always kind of a pain in the ass, ultimately.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't necessarily, it doesn't come across, but I mean, anytime you're putting out any kind of art, I mean, this stuff costs money to make. One, it takes a lot of time, and you know, you have to be able to also figure out the time to simply be creative at this, to be able to write and record. You know, when you're doing it all on your own, I mean, I gotta give you a lot of credit for just pulling it all off too. A lot, you know. So and to be able to stay consistent, because I know you've done a couple of albums just in the last 2 years or something, right?
Yeah. Like, it's funny. I this album I just released, I've been recording for like 8 years.
Nice.
And I dropped an album in 2012, Swiss Chocolate Cake.
Yeah.
Was something I recorded in 03, 04.
So you just had a lot of joints during that time.
Just sitting there.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, let me put this out. And I like a lot of these songs.
Sure.
And hey, why not? You know?
Of course.
So I ended up teaming with another cat from upstate, Sub Bombing, to help me put out that record. And then, but before that, after the last Poly album in 2007, that's when I got hit with, you know, like this music. I'm fighting with everybody, you know. I'm dealing with a lot of nonsense, and music was shifting,
right?
And people weren't buying records anymore. You know, after that Hold Us Down in 2001, it was like a black eye. You know, I dropped Twisted Mister 2004, which was like, this is gonna be an album. Even the Hold Us Down album was like, after I put out the Complex catalog, I still had all these songs I recorded. I wasn't thinking on album concept. When Wes came to me, was like, I got some major distribution set up if you want to partner with me, because they want some other stuff too.
Yeah, they want some content.
Right, and this was again the first time me, myself, Core Records getting it into the chain stores.
Right.
So it was a whole nother world I didn't know about. Like, you can't get on a listening station. You can't get it played in the store. You can't get your album up on the top unless you pay extra money. You can't pay just for that one store. You got to pay for the whole region. And you can't just pay for the stores. You got to pay for billboards outside and magazines. We got to know that you're working it. You know?
Yeah. Well, that was the era of spending a lot. There was a lot of things to spend money on.
You had
a lot of print ads.
You had to have like hundreds and thousands of dollars.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you look back and you're like, did the record do that much better because of those things? Like, I'm just talking in general terms.
They didn't. You know, I remember when Visualize came out in 97. I remember Mike Geronimo record with Puffy on it came out at the same time. And I remember they paid Puffy all this money, and they paid him all this money for a video. But I remember Visualize was kicking that record's ass.
Nice. Yeah, that was Nothing Moved But the Money, I think, was what Puffy record.
Yeah.
Which was like,
so it just showed
such a flop. He shouldn't have done that to begin with, because Mike Geronimo, I mean, it's like, why would you go that route? You know?
Right. And that just showed you at the time that it's not always money. Even though right now it seems like a PR game. It's like, if you have the money for PR right now, that's how you become these big superstars that they have today, if you want to call them that.
Sure.
It's like, how does DJ Khaled, how is he so popular when I'm just not really sure what he does?
Exactly, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, he has, a high-paid, powered team behind him.
Right.
Because he's more of a personality.
Not to disrespect anybody.
Yeah,
but anybody with money could be that type of person.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure.
If you want to start tomorrow and be like, I'm going to come up with a name, get this behind you, and you can be doing commercials, you could be on award shows.
I mean, look at our president.
Right, exactly.
Hey,
you know what I'm saying? Exactly.
Pay to play. You know?
Exactly it. But, you know, so now it's a game, it's a different game as well. Someone just posted the other day about people posting so much and their music is whack, but because they post so much, they're famous. And I'm like, you know, I didn't have to post back in the days. You know, I gave my record to a couple of folks. I was in magazines, and I was on my way.
Right.
But now, I gotta come up with something every 3 hours in
Right.
post.
Well, I think it's so relative too, like how we gauge like what's successful and what isn't, and
Right.
if it's like if we quantify it by views and likes on social media, it's like when you have a show in a brick and mortar venue, does that translate to people buying a hard ticket? Like when you do a show, does it really, or are people buying the records? Do you see that? You know?
Yeah, I'm kind of old school where I was like, I don't want to get on Instagram. I don't want to do all that. No. But I can't get booked on shows or tours because the first thing they look at is how many followers you have. You know what I mean? So it's like, what? Were you not on Instagram?
Yeah, it doesn't help.
Yeah. So now jumping on it late in the past year or two, you know, now I'm trying to build it's funny, my followers are jumping crazy right now. I got like 500 in the past 2 weeks.
Nice.
Week and a half.
Right.
What's this? Yeah. Whatever it is. But, plex if you're looking. But, just that game, it's crazy to me that you have to be that active, and you know, it takes away from you writing.
Oh, no question.
You know,
it's a gigantic distraction on all levels. I feel like
yes,
it eats up creativity a great deal.
because you have to be creative with that. You know,
yeah. I mean,
anything I really touch, I get creative with. But it's like you hate to, you don't hate it, but it takes your time. I'm sitting with my lady now, and I'm constantly doing this on my, leisure time, and she's upset. She's watching a TV show, and I'm like, I can't watch this show.
right.
I gotta do this,
Right.
But
Yeah, but I mean, like you look at like the films and the records and stuff, and it's like, what the amount of time it took to make those, like now is kind of transferring into this weird kind of new thing. But hopefully that doesn't detract, because the thing is too, though, I mean, you're constantly working in film anyway too, so that's become like that's your day job, right?
Yeah.
Is it primarily as a first AD?
First AD, second,
Right.
whatever, even PA sometimes,
Right.
Sometimes I like to take these driver jobs,
Sure.
so I get some moments and I can sit and listen, and I can write rhymes while I'm,
Well, there's a lot of downtime.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
this.
get those
When I first
downtime.
came to New York, I was a PA. That was my first 2 years, and then I shifted more into music. But yeah, I mean, so are you doing? I mean, to do that work, because my girlfriend works in TV too, so I know that, and I know a bunch of people here in New York. I mean, it's a hustle, a major hustle too, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yes, it's a hustle. It's funny, it's like I've been doing it since '03. If you check my IMDb, you'll see a long list of shows, from Chappelle's Show, American Idol, to movie.
so a mix of TV and film, and I'm sure commercials in the mix too.
I have probably, a lot of people don't mix as much as I do. Some people
Go
get
back
be
and forth,
stuck
right.
in music videos or
Sure.
commercials, but I'll do commercials, I'll do TV shows, I'll do movies, indies, the big movies. I haven't did soap operas once.
Did you?
Yeah, one day. But then I could do food shows, and you get stuck in the food show. I worked Food Network for like 5 years straight. And you make all these connections.
Operating a camera?
No, as an second AD.
Gotcha.
And there'll be like 9 cameras, 8 camera teams, and it's real busy. And and all these audio teams and then contestants.
It was a shot in New York?
New York, I shot New York, LA, Miami, wherever, Albuquerque,
Right. But that world is different, where it's not like you're not represented by anyone, right? So they just know it's a matter of consistency. So it's in a way it's kind of like the older version of the music biz, as far as people, they're like, this guy is good at what he does. We know him. We have a relationship with him, so we want to bring him back. Where it's like in the music business now, it's like you kind of need to have an agent and a publicist and a manager that do a lot of the talking for you. In film, it's just your reputation is basically all that people can go off of, right? Like
it's reputation. And it's like, bring him. He's cool. He's the rapper. He's a rapper. So sometimes I get jobs just because people want me around because they feel it's cool. Like Bobby Flay will be like, "Yo, make sure Plex is here."
Nice.
And it'll be like that. And then sometimes which is funny, it's like people know you for what you did last.
Of course.
So like, for me being an AD and then or a second AD, and you start graduating to where you're getting bigger money for the days, and you're like, okay, I'm growing up now. I can stop the PA jobs,
Right.
you know. But then one person call you for a PA job, just one day, you know, please, guy fell out, please. Somebody says you're good, da da da. And you're like, all right, I'll just do it. I have nothing to do. It's money.
Right.
I need it right now. And then you do that one PA job, and they remember you from that PA job after you just been ADing for the past 3 years. The next you know, they call on you for the PA jobs again.
Yeah.
And you stuck in that world again.
Yeah.
And you're like, why are you here? And, you know, I had submitted my book in to get into the DGA, the Guild, like 2013. And those that's not in the film world, I'm going to explain it to you real quick.
Directors Guild?
Yeah, it's not a union, but it's a guild that sort of protects you. They set you up for the pension, and they take their money, and you know they set
no
you
different
up.
than SAG, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Similar. And but to get in that one is a little difficult from the other departments. Like other departments, camera, you may take a test, grips, electrics, you know, art department, even makeup and hair and all that. You may work a few days, take a test, and you can get in. But you have to PA to get into the Directors Guild, and you work like 600 days, and you have to prove it to them by showing them the call sheets, pay stubs, PRs, or contact sheets, you know.
Oh, so you got to also be very organized.
Yes. But, you know, nobody tells you these things when you start. So the first years, I'm still rapping. I'm like, I'm a rapper. I'm not doing, you know, I'm not PA. Even though I was a filmmaker, I said, I'm going to direct my own movie. So I wasn't trying to be an AD,
Right.
you know. I was like, so the first years, I wasn't thinking about it. But just out of GP, I was saving my pay stubs because that seemed important.
Sure.
But I wasn't saving call sheets or certain things. And I didn't know about certain call sheets. If they listed you as a driver, you didn't get credit.
Right.
And multiple camera shoots, you don't get credit. So all those Food Network shows, they don't count those. All those TV shows, are we there yet? Where I have multiple cameras, they don't count those. There's a lot of stupid rules.
Are you able to negotiate that stuff ahead of time to be like, can you make sure that you credit me as like it's slightly different?
After you learn it, but I didn't know now. You know,
no one's ever going to hold your hand.
No. Some people tell people because they know. Because a lot of these people, it's like my father was this person, my mom's is, you know. So some people get, you know.
Well, if you're born into it, it's totally different.
Yeah, but if you're by yourself, you know, you learn by yourself.
Right.
But yeah, so a lot of that, and you know, electric company, you know, I did that for 3 seasons, and they had that under Sesame Street Workshop, which is the studio.
Is there a contemporary electric company?
Yeah, we shot 2008 to 2010.
I didn't know that. I mean, I remember watching when I was a kid.
Right. And it's so funny. A lot of those actors are blown up now. And Hamilton, the kid that created Hamilton, he was on an episode or 2.
Oh, nice.
And it's funny. I'm this weekend or Monday. I'm first AD in a commercial with him, Nas, Davies, and a bunch of kids.
That's what's up.
So I don't know if he's gonna remember me from Electric Company.
Well, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he's definitely a hip hop head.
Yeah, he should remember because he knew me from when he was on set. You know, everybody's like, word.
Right.
But you know,
right.
But I don't take it for granted. But sometimes it's weird when I work with actors that are hip hop heads,
right?
And you would never know. And like, what's his name? Damn, I can't think of his name.
What show was it?
I worked on this movie. It'll come to me in a second. But he played Pyro in X-Men.
Oh, okay. Dang, what's that? Someone listening will probably immediately get this, so apologies.
But he got into the car. Another actor, Mark Webber, was in the car with me, and him. Damn, I can't think of his name.
And what, they're just talking about hip-hop? Or obviously
he just got in the car and he started spitting my rhymes.
Really?
And I was like, how you know that? He's like, I know you are.
That's what's up.
And it's like, wow. And Mario Lopez, like you see him on.
What's up?
Yeah, he knows what's up. I worked on a movie with him in Albuquerque, and you know we just, you know, bonded and we did karaoke out there, and you know, and he's like, yo, Ferrell Monk, blah blah blah, and it's like you're a Hollywood dude. How do you know?
Yeah, he's like
like I know.
Hollywood.
And you know, but the one who really shocked me was Farrah Fawcett.
Okay.
I worked on a movie with her, Cookout, like 2003 or 4, whatever. And I remember seeing her sitting in the car, bopping her head. Windows were up. And I'm like, what is she bopping to? You know?
Right.
And I was like, hey, you know, she's like, my son, he's 18, he plays me all this stuff, la la la. I was like, word? Then I gave her a CD. Next day, she was like, yo. And she was quoting some rhymes. She was like, you're talented, blah, blah, blah. She said, I like your hip. I don't listen to that Ja Rule type stuff. But I like yours. And she was like quoting, and she was like in love. And it was crazy, but...
Nice, man. Well, obviously on Twisted Mystery, you had
Will Ferrell. Yeah.
So what was the story with that? Because that's a hilarious skit.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like when you work with some of these actors that you admire, you watch.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, I'm hit with this person, you know? But...
I mean, he seems like a pretty, like, cool
Yeah,
person.
he was real cool, but it was funny, like, I forget that I'm funny, you know? So when I say things all day, you know, people laugh. So when I make Will Ferrell laugh, it was like, it shocks you, you know? Like, oh, shit, you know, make Will Ferrell laugh. And then I was like, you know, after a while, you know, we work on every day, then it's like, yo, Will, I want to do a skit. He's like, just write it, and I'll do it. Come on, let's do it. And it was that easy, you know? And we did it. Then he was like, yo, 50 called and wanted to do a skit too. And I was like, nah, man, don't do one for just mine. You know?
But,
But,
you got the exclusive on that.
yeah. But, you know, and then I heard, this was before Anchorman. And when he went to do promotions for Anchorman on MTV, I heard he shouted me out.
Really?
Yeah, and everybody was calling me, yo, Will Ferrell just said your name on.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, wow.
What was the movie that you guys had worked on?
It was called Winter Passing.
Oh, okay.
It was a, you know, real indie.
Right.
It was a serious movie. He's being serious, wasn't it?
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's funny, those movies you get like 30-day shoots, whatever.
Right.
4 weeks, a month, something. And, you know, you get real close with these people, and it's not that high profile. You know, we worked in the city a couple of days, but mostly was in Jersey, you know, in a house. So it was like, you know, you just relax.
Yeah, it's pretty chill,
you know?
right?
Yeah, so...
I mean, you have meals together, you see each other every morning and shit,
And it's funny, it's like sometimes you think you're going to be friends forever.
Right.
And it's like you see the younger crew that get that feeling as well. But then after you work on a movie, you realize that after this movie's done, you're never going to see me again.
Right.
It's over, son.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm breaking up with you. Relationship is done. You know? And you feel like you know? But when I see people that are like, we're going to be buddies, you know, and it's like, but sometimes when you run into actors that remember you from before, it's like, oh, word, you know? Like, I worked on Danny Glover in that Cookout movie. Then I worked on, I just worked a day or two on Be Calm Rewind.
Okay.
And I remember it was, you know, the French director, and he had a French crew, and he had his key that called me in that didn't know who I was. He was like, I got your number from somebody, you know, did you come in first day? And what is your name? Corey? I said, listen, nobody calls me Corey here. You know, it's Complex. Okay, Complex. Okay, Corey. And it was like, Corey and Complex, could you come? He's calling me, but all right, we're coming. I used to, you know, fuck with him. And he didn't know who I was. And then when I get to set, the crew was like, hey, Complex, what you doing? Hey. So he's like, oh, people know you, huh?
Yeah.
This regular crew, so he expecting that. But he ain't expect Mos Def to jump out middle of his rehearsal when he see me, you know, with Jack Black. Oh, snap. And jump off. So everybody's like, who the fuck is this guy?
Right.
You know?
Start looking when the stars start coming to you. Yes, definitely.
So then when Danny Glover shows up, he's like, hey, what's up?
Nice.
So now it's like, people are like, yo, who the fuck are you? You know? And it's like, they can't even ask me to work anymore. You know?
Right.
Like, this producer right now that I'm working with on this commercial, this video coming up, when I first started working with him maybe a couple of years ago, he was like, Complex, all right, Complex, whatever. But he kept putting my government name on the call sheet.
Right.
And I was like, yo, man, why you disrespecting me? And, and then he always still kept me away from the set. He knew me. He just wanted me as a driver. He always kept me away like, yo. And I could hear him on set, them crying and screaming for things. We need help. Is there anybody available? And he always be like, yo, just go for a run. And always keep me away from them, And then when I came to set one time to get to the crafty table, all these second ADs and all these other girls was like, who is this guy? He just shows up and he just gone. Because it's like another thing with me, because I'm 6 foot, I'm not the biggest dude, but when people see you, or people see people, they figure like for how they look, what we want you to do. Let's get this girl to organize the socks on the table. This guy, we can get him to carry the heavy shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's what a lot of times people think in their mind, or they see me. It's like, let's get that guy to move all the people out of the front of the projects for American Gangster.
Did you have to do that?
Yeah.
Right.
Denzel, could you just walk with Denzel over there? So why you want me to walk over there?
Right.
Excuse me, y'all. Because you see the white kid over there trying to clear people off their own bench. Excuse me, guys, could y'all get off this bench because we shooting this way? Man, fuck out of here. It's my motherfucking bench, motherfucker. We the real fucking gangsters.
Right.
And it's like, all right, Flex is here. Everybody, Flex. Then I go over and I have to clear people,
Right.
But I almost lost where I was at. Somehow this producer for this commercial, what were I commercials with, and the girls was like, "What is your name?" I was like, "Complex," and I saw them looking on the call sheet, like trying to find Complex. What do you do? And I was playing with them, not giving them the full information. And then they was like, "Oh, no, it's Corey. He's disrespectful." And then he was like, "I don't put street names on the call sheet." And I was like, "Complex is not a street name. It's my professional name, Mr. Complex." And everybody laughed thinking I was joking, But his face, I see his face lit up like, a certain way.
Oh.
And then
He understood what the name was.
Yeah. Then he came back to me, and 20 minutes later was like, "Yo, I didn't know you was Mr. Complex. You did a song with Farrell Munch, Scream and Shout, and you did this and that. Yo, man, I'm a big fan, man.
Wow.
I didn't know. Oh, man, I can't ask you to do anything now. I feel bad.
Right.
How about I just pay you, you go home?"
Really?
I was like, "No, you ain't got to do all that. I'm here to work, man,
Right.
And then he was like, "Oh, my God, I can't believe. What are you doing, man? What are you doing?" Then I gave him, I'm working on a new album. I need to do this to supplement.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So he was like, "Oh my God." Then he's like big groupie now. He starts coming to the shows. And he's like, "I'm never going to call you for another job again. You need to be on the stage. What I just saw right there, you can't be." And sometimes it's like that.
Yeah, but you kind of still need to get those callbacks, though.
Yeah. But sometimes you see it. It's like you would hate for Farrell to have to do that. You would hate for OC to have to do that. Because I remember at the time when we were all together, and it was like Farrell's only job was working at Alexander's or Macy's or something right out of high school. That was the only job. And then it was music. Even though lows might have happened in their life, and you're like, "What can I do?
Sure.
He had to stick to his guns, and he was a writer. He doesn't do anything else but write those rhymes. So Farrell's rhymes is going to be the most incredible rhymes that there are, because that's what he loves. That's what he does 100% all day. Right. And then we talk all the time about sometimes you have to part-time the music, because I have, kids. It's all you. You have a different life than I have. I need to do this. I went to school for this and that, So it's a little different, you know what I mean? But I saw, and these dudes that just was like writing. If I was to be like only writing rhymes, I'd probably be a different MC.
Right, yeah.
But
you can even tell with a lot of the songs too, how that could play into how you make films and stuff. There's definitely a comedic edge that exists in both mediums for you.
Right.
There's like a real kind of like a lot of tongue in cheek, a lot of like you have to really, there's a lot of like inside jokes or double entendres and stuff that work. If you catch them, they're like very hilarious.
Right. That's the one thing that I had to tell these people, it's like, and I remember talking to Jaguar Wright singer, and I was talking about balance, and she says there is no balance.
It's all music and that's it? Is that
No, it's just whatever you show up for that day, that's what you got to do.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's that still sort of as a balance, because, you know, I'm doing my music stuff now, and then in a few hours, I'm doing some film stuff, you know?
Right.
But I push it a little different. I still will be driving, writing rhymes. I'm still on set, you know, thinking of...
Yeah, I mean, it's relative, because, you know, some people just, you got to make a living, you know?
Right.
That's the real day-to-day reality of it.
Yeah,
Man.
and it's stronger, yes, today's times, because no one's buying the music, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like you have to be an artist in a daytime job, you know?
Yeah, there's
And
nothing wrong with that, because
get
that'll...
used to that.
For sure.
Get used to that. Get used to... And it's like, when people don't understand it, if you listen to someone all day, and you go to McDonald's and you order food from them, hey, wasn't that MC so-and-so? I got your album. It was like, if I'm working on a set and people recognize, you know, it's all good. You know, it's funny when I work on these reality shows and these people think they're superstars.
Right.
You know, and I have to get them, what do you want for lunch?
Uh-huh.
Don't make sure I don't want no corn in my salad.
Right.
Get me my water and make sure it's this type of water. And they think, okay, whatever.
Yeah,
and you go home.
Say.
Yeah. And then the next day I'm on a plane going to, you know, to Germany.
Right.
And how was your weekend? I just rocked a football stadium. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like, you're a reality star. You know, it was like that. That was like, it hit me funny. And it hit me funny on the bad days. Like, I just finished a commercial for Burlington this week.
Okay.
And for new people I never worked with before.
For Burlington Coat Factory?
Yeah, it's not Coat Factory, it's more than coats. But,
Gotcha.
but they're like, could you watch this light? We're going to lunch, and there's a light out front, and then the generator, and there's no one watching it.
All right.
You want me? And it was sunny, hot day, no shade, and I'm outside in Jersey watching the light. And, you know, those are the days that you fight with yourself. It's like, I used to be on stage. I used to travel. I was signing autographs like an hour one day. I was doing this. And now I'm doing this.
Watching a light.
Watching the light. I'm this age. I have these kids. I have this. You know, it humbles you, but you remember what are you doing. And it's like, okay, you know, Prodigy just passed. You know, everybody's going to pass. I'm going to pass one day. I don't know when. It's going to be soon or later. But I did put out all these records that people are finding today.
Right. Yeah.
People hit me last week. Yo, I just heard this record you made. I'm going to put it on my top 10 on my radio show. Visualize. It's dope. I'm like,
wow.
Well, thanks. I'm like,
well, there's something great about that.
Yeah, it's great.
I think with Prodigy's passing too, it you know, Mobb Deep. I mean, this lends itself to a much bigger conversation, but Mobb Deep seemed like this sort of like invincible group too, like impenetrable. They were like, you know, their music was so hard too, and they were so good at it. You know, they were masters at that thing. And then you look now that like his passing is so fresh and so sudden, and you kind of take a chance to take stock in what Mobb Deep and his career was. And this guy was so prolific. I don't think you really realize until someone leaves, but they kept working. He never sat on his hands, even out of jail. I mean, the guy like wrote 3 books too. He wrote a cookbook. I mean, you know, and they made movies too, like Murder Music. I watched it last night. You know, low budget movies, no different than the movies that you made too.
Right.
And I don't know if I'm making a precise point here, but it's like, I don't doubt that he had lots of highs and lows in his career. I'm sure they got big checks, obviously, and he did a lot of indie records too. You know, when it's just you just got, and they had a lot of white labels, so you know, you just gotta keep it going, keep the wheels moving,
Yeah.
you know, too. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's that art and design, high school that we all went to. That that's what an artist is. You know what I mean? So he's going to put it out. It's going to come out some kind of way. You know what I mean? And that's the love of it.
What was that school like for you?
The school was like, growing up, we had the movie Fame
Right.
to look at, and you saw that window of, wow, that's what an art's, that's different from any school in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's a school like that just for people that can draw too. Oh, really? Art and design. So you go to a school, you had to take a test. Thousands and thousands of kids felt that they were good, but only like 300 make it. You know what I mean? So then you're in a class with 30 kids, and the teacher's like, all right, we're going to design a cover for, the hospital, the boat hospitals wants a new logo. So everybody's going to do this, try to come up with a logo. So it's 30 kids that's nice. So you got to excel out of those. You got to look different from out of the kids that are already good.
Right.
And I remember my teacher pulled me to the side, was like, yo, you do this without any effort. And you're better than most of the kids in here. He said, you can make 6 figures easy if you pursue your art. And it was like, yeah, but I want to rap. And, it was funny that I did that, but that helped me to push to be creative. It's
Sure.
like you think of all the MCs are out, that came out, and some people be rhyming now, be like, there's nothing else to rhyme about because everything's been rapped about already.
Right.
And when I hear people say things like that, I'm like, well, that's where you're wrong.
Of course.
That's when the art comes in. It's like when I made I'm Rhyming, that was 95, rapping still going on for 20 years at that time.
Sure.
And I did a song that I was rhyming the same word.
Yeah.
When I first started rhyming, that's what I used to do. I used to just think of things that, people weren't doing. I did a song called Repetition Style. I was just saying the same style, and it was just weird. And I did a color scheme rhyme. I was doing alliterations way before anybody was doing them.
Yeah, I mean, you've always been pretty expansive with the kind of adventurous style of songwriting, too.
Right.
Like, there's that one on Hold This Down where it's like the posse cut. I don't know if it's Desire. It's not Desire. It's the one, it's Everybody Everywhere.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
you have, like, it's kind of like a scene that plays out, and you have different characters kind of coming in and out. You have the guy on the radio, you got the guy in the cipher that you walk across the street from and shit like that.
Right.
So that's like,
Yeah.
it's,
that's shared
creative.
some words, I came up with that concept when I was writing with Polly.
Okay.
When I used to sit in the studio and Shaban be in a corner and Pani be in a corner, and I'm writing and I'm hearing, and I was like, it just hit me. What if I did something intertwined?
Right.
I remember I had did the sound installation thing back in 95, 96.
Oh, cool. What
These
was that?
German people came, and they was like, we need a rapper to take German words that have been translated to English words, and we want to do the sound installation. It was just some weird shit, but it was just all these art people in Midtown, suits, $50 to get in. It was just art exhibit thing.
And you were the live MC?
But we recorded a CD, and they gave me all these words: Frankfurter, hamburger, all. And then there was words that didn't translate, like trendsetter, So it was like all these other little words. They gave me a long list. And they wanted me to put them in a rap. So I put them in a rap. And it was like an ill, crazy, weird sound beat. But it was some weird...
That's dope.
Yeah. But it was like...
Has anyone ever... Did you invite anyone to see
No.
that?
It was before... I think I had the first record out.
Uh-huh.
But it was nothing I told anyone. I was doing a lot of weird things at that time.
Okay.
I was also... There was another artist, an actress. She was in a movie... IRT, Girl on IRT something.
Okay.
She was an actress. She was in another movie. Because at the time, Stress Magazine had me writing the film column.
Oh, dope. Yeah, I think I remember that.
I was, what am I write about? So I was just meeting filmmakers. So I met this actress who's also a singer, and she was a guitarist and a flautist. And she was doing these shows at this weird spot where they had a lady, she used to paddle people. She used to wear Viking helmets, and it was a weird spot. Lower East
Manhattan?
Side. Yeah.
Downtown.
Yeah, and it was like next to the stage, and you just used to whip people there.
Okay.
So this girl had me come in, and while she played the guitar, I was the beatbox,
All right.
and she would sing and would switch up to singing to the rap. So I used to beatbox and she used to sing, and it was like folk hip hop.
I love that. What year was this?
95, 96.
Yeah.
96.
Yeah, there's some great New York. That was a great time in New York for sure.
And she used to do that, and I used to beat, and people would, wow, I never heard anything like this before. Before Lauryn Hill was doing the guitar, acoustic stuff. And she used to make a beat with the guitar
Nice.
for me to rap. And I used to do it, and I did that song Relax back before I even recorded it. It was like, what you do? And she used to do it like that, and that was the rhyme I did for that. And people were like, wow. And I was like, what am I doing? Until one day somebody was like, are you the same Mr. Complex that made I'm Rhyming? And I was like, whoa, how do you know? You know, it was like, you know.
Did you do a lot of Lyricist Lounge?
I did a couple of them.
Yeah.
You know.
What did you think of the Lyricist Lounge TV show on MTV? In the moment when it was happening, because it's a lot of your contemporaries, and it was like I recently watched some episodes on YouTube, and it's like this, you know, it's like an all rap show, people rhyming, skits. I
remember when they was recording, and did I do my game show at that time? My game show I did 99, 2000.
Yes. Do you remember this?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I wanted to lead into that too.
Oh yeah.
You talk about the game show.
So at that time it was like stuff was popping off,
right?
And people were like, "Yo, you can get your game show on now. You got this hip hop show. You're showing." It was like these were all models to show these big companies that there's an audience,
right?
You know, but you see, the one thing that they was almost getting a little commercial with things, and people were like, "I don't know now. It's almost making fun of hip hop." I don't know. Some people had mixed reviews, but then I still think it turned people on. Young kids were getting into it.
Yeah.
And it was like, if you rapped on a train, you know, it was like, I'm putting words together, everybody. People were like, wow, he can rap. You know?
Right.
It was like that type of thing. You know, and then so I was doing my game show. It was weird. I was getting calls from all these networks.
So for people that weren't around at that time, break down what the game show was.
The game show was called Hip to the Game. If you look on Mr. Complex YouTube, Mr. Complex Hip to the Game, you'll find it. Okay. But I had like 20 categories.
Sort of like hip-hop trivia, right?
Yeah, but it was like a Price is Right, where I would dip the roots. And I would showcase different things. Like I was real creative with the games. I ain't want it all to be, I'm asking you a question. You got A, B, or C.
Right,
you know?
Right.
I had interactions. You know, I might play or something, and somebody say the record, and then an artist would pop up and perform it.
Right.
You know, and people were like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting that."
Yeah.
And that breaks the reality, breaks that fantasy. You know what I mean? So it was always shocking. And then I had video projected categories. Like I would film a lot of artists. I had one category called "Hit 'Em in the Head," and I filmed like Craig Mack just talking, and just had to figure out who it was.
Right.
You know.
Did you ever watch Remote Control? Remember that show that was on MTV? It was like Jon Stewart was the.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like in the mid '80s and stuff.
I kind of remember that.
Yeah, it was like not the same, but I was always a fan of those kind of music related sort of game shows.
Right.
You know, where you have to be like they play like 5 seconds of a song. You got to fake.
Yeah.
You know.
I dropped the needle, but it was hard for hip hop game show like that. The one thing I came with was a lot of the licensing, because hip hop, you know, sampled people a lot of times, so they was always scared of that. So they couldn't play these songs. But then it was like, I think Def Jam had did the game show, and and they was playing all their music, so it was easier for them to control it. But when I was doing it, was like, who you want to play? Chill Rob G, where he sampled this, and this. You know, it was like, you can't. It was too expensive.
Do you remember this particular one? Because this is okay. So I have a flyer of a thing that you did at SOBs and that you invited me to be a part of. I actually showed my music videos And I remember the show really well, too. This had to have been, this says Thursday, January 16th at SOB's, but I'm pretty sure this must have been January 16th, 2001. I would assume so.
Yeah.
If not, maybe 2002 or something.
This is Master Ace, Breeze Ever Flowing.
E-Dot.
E-Dot,
right. And, yeah, Mr. Sinister.
I had a lot of performances, yeah.
Yeah. Had you done multiple live versions of this one?
Mm-hmm. I did about 8 of them.
Okay. All at SOBs? Did you move around?
Knitting Factory, Nuyorican. First one was at the Fat Beat store.
Nice, okay.
I did one in London in Mr. Bongo's.
Dope.
I did one in LA at another record store. I don't remember what it was.
So you were just, those must have been kind of like sort of primitive, you're testing it out.
But it was crazy because after I started doing them, a lot of people started giving me product. Like,
cool.
I used to have Xboxes and
as
clothes and prizes.
Prizes.
Yeah, I had one show, I had so many prizes that I just gave them to all the audience that was there.
Right.
Like magazines.
Everybody got a prize.
Everybody got something.
I remember this one so vividly because I was playing the videos. I was on the balcony where the projector is at SOB's, and cats started booing some of the music videos because it was a mix. It was some real West Coast stuff in there too. I was living in California at the time, so I had whatever I had access to is what got on there. So I had some New York shit and I had some West Coast stuff. So the West Coast shit, this is 2001. I'm pretty sure. Definitely got some boos, and it was a tough New York crowd at the time. I remember, but I was playing them all over the place. But I just remember that one just being like, "Dang, man, I wish I should have made one just of New York artists."
Yeah, I remember I had kids film this.
And
the kid kept the tapes.
Oh shit! So you never saw this particular one?
No.
Yeah, it's it was cool, man. It was a cool concept.
Christian. If I ever run into a camera dude named Christian,
and run those joints,
and he mentions, "Hey, I remember you now."
Yeah, you're like, "Where's that storage space, man? We're running that shit."
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I love it, man. Just that, like, you've always tried to had an adventurous edge as far as like conceptual stuff goes. Both with the records and with the film and the video stuff too. So, but what's the, like, because I just saw you play too. I hadn't seen you rock a show in a long time too, which was great. So I wanted to work this into the conversation so people, at least in the New York area, know that you're doing like a summer series thing too, right? So what's the place and what it's like it's once a month? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been calling it Summer Love Series.
Nice. Okay.
Next one is July 16, then August 13.
Okay.
It's in the Brooklyn Navy Yard at the at this whiskey distillery called Tasters Room.
Cool. Yeah, it's a cool space.
Yeah, it's real nice. I'm supposed to meet with them today. But yeah, it was Father's Day for the last one, so I didn't have a big turnout. But this one, I gotta pack it out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I'm gonna figure out my lineup, and it still was a good one.
Yeah, it was El Fudge performed. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen him perform before, so that was a special treat, for sure.
It's funny, I got El Fudge into the film world now.
Yeah, he mentioned that. Yeah, so now he's pulling focus.
Right, he's more of driving and PA.
Yeah,
gets the second AD sometimes, but
yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah, but the next one. Oh, you missed the second show. You just saw the first one. The second one.
Oh yeah, because you basically do an afternoon show and an evening show, right?
Yeah, it was like from 2 to 8. It's a daytime thing.
Right.
We have food, drinks, DJ, live band. I brought some other cats to perform.
Who was the DJ? The one that I just saw.
Early one was DJ Stripe.
He was dope.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this.
DJ Mocha, and I had DJ Toshi.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. The second show I performed, it was a lot different. It was a lot tighter. I don't know. I brought Truth and No Lie out.
Nice.
And Fudge, and we did it again. And Ja Rule, the drummer.
Yeah.
He came out and jumped on King Kong Love.
Oh, that's what's up. Yeah.
So that second, second setting blew the first one out.
Right.
And I was like, damn. And I didn't go live on the second one. Somebody had my phone went live on the first one. But the second one is the one that I wish people saw.
That
But-
first one was good. I mean, it was a hot day. It was Father's Day. It was you did the early afternoon set. It's a great band. The people that you did that playing with you, I thought were great too.
Yeah.
Great drummer and bass player, keyboard player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's cool. So then, and then you got a record that just came out too, right?
Yeah, the Forever New album. One producer.
Nice. Who's that?
His name is Mortal One. He was another one that went to high school with us.
Oh, so you grew up with him?
Yeah, and he was never in the game. He became a correction officer, retired early, and all of a sudden it's like, I'm making beats. And my first
Nice.
producer, Omega Supreme,
Right.
who I never really put out records with.
He was the first producer?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that because he's put out a bunch of stuff. If I'm not mistaken, right?
He worked
No, I'm
with
thinking of someone else.
probably someone else.
Yeah.
He was a producer, DJ, and manager type.
Okay.
You know, he was at high school as well. He was organizers, sort of first DJ, sort of, but
Cool.
never really did things. But then he started working in the industry. He was working with Russ way back in the late 80s, and he introduced me to a lot of people back then.
Right.
And when I first like 89, 90, when I was hitting the demos, I had got offered a deal early, but I didn't follow up.
Okay.
And then
With whom?
it was MCA Soul Records,
Okay.
and
Yep.
then he started running around with CeCe Peniston,
Okay.
and they trying to get me on R&B vibe. You know,
I cannot,
they was like,
envision that one.
yeah, they was like, since Will Smith is doing TV now, you could take a spot. You could be the young, clean-cut storyteller, la la la. And I was like, but I'm complex, man. I'm not, you know. But they had me rhyming on all these R&B beats, you know.
You still have those?
Yep.
Wow.
I have about 6, 7 songs. One with Farrell on it.
Very interesting. For early 90s?
90.
Wow.
1990.
When did Organized's debut album come out? 91 or something? 92?
Yeah, something like that.
Were you around? You must have been around those guys, obviously, during that period of time, yeah?
Before that,
I mean, you grew up with them, yeah?
yeah, I helped them get their first record. Their first record before
what were they called before Organized?
Simply Two Positive MCs.
Right.
There used to be a guy that lived 3 houses over named Neil Kelly.
Uh-huh.
He was older than me. He was my aunt's, friend. But he was like techno dude. He came to my house. He was like, everybody's going to have a computer in their house.
Uh-huh.
In years to come, everybody's, a computer? What's that? He was like, he knew everything.
Right.
Magazines going to be dead. Da-da-da. He was like, he was that dude.
Yeah.
He was able to get on my TV screen when I was watching Kung Fu movies. He was able to talk.
No way.
I don't know how you do. Yo, Corey, you watching? I'm like, how you doing this, man? He had speakers and a mic in his car. I used to come home and be like, yo, Corey. He was like that dude. Then he built a studio in his basement.
Okay.
And you remember Jamaica Funk? Jamaica Funk. That's what the keyboard player's name was Kenny Osborne. You know that dude? They used to be down there and they used to be making beats. They used to bring all these MCs through, this one dude named Prince Swift and the Badley Boys.
Okay.
Some girl named Smiley, Father MC.
Really?
They used to come down there.
This is Jamaica?
Yeah.
Right.
I used to come down there and just watch. I was a kid.
They let you hang out?
Yeah, me hang out. I could rap. They like, come on. I can rap. And let me hear you. And I was scared. I was like, you gotta turn out the lights first. And then I did a rhyme with all C's. I'm the courageous cat. Clarify, clear, clean contracts. Cooling like a cool cat should. Never say can't, because I wish you would. Clever concept. It was something crazy.
Nice.
It was like 8 pages.
Right.
They was like, oh my God. And I was like, I'm not going to rap. No, I'm not going to do it. But my friend can. And then I brought Prince Poe over.
Okay.
He sat next to me in like 10th grade. So you come, these guys at the studio, you got to come over. So he used to come over.
Did you guys meet in school?
Yeah. So 84, 85.
Uh-huh.
So I had to bring Prince over, and he used to rap down there.
Nice.
And they'd be, let's go to your man crib, let's go to your man crib. And I used to keep bringing him over until he got familiar. He was like, Then he started bringing Farrell over.
Cool.
And then they started recording. Next you know, they made a record.
So they did the record all there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no, they went to a big studio,
yeah, but they did the
started
demo
the demos there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's how that started.
Amazing.
And it was crazy to hear your friends on wax. You know, it was like, that's his voice. You know?
Yeah.
And that's how that started.
What was it like when that record came out, like in Jamaica?
In Jamaica, it was like, they only pressed like 1,000 copies.
Uh-huh.
So, they didn't even do anything with the Love record, too.
Right.
So it was like, it's called Moments of Love or something like that.
Oh, this is their very first record.
Yeah, before Organized.
So did people even get it at all?
No.
Right.
I mean, it just was like for fun.
Right.
And then that led them to get a deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Basic, yeah.
just like we were saying before, you press these records up to get a deal. That's
Yes.
how I saw it.
Right.
That's how I knew it.
Right.
I didn't realize you could make your own career off of pressing it yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I learned later.
Sure.
But, you know, so back to Omega Supreme, who really didn't have hands on at the record, but he was a dude and we was just a clique. You know what I mean? So when he started touring with CeCe, they left me home for like 7-8 months. And I used to be like, come on, man, I want to go to the studio. Wait till we get back. I ain't waiting. And then I bring my other man with me to the studio, Lee Stone.
Right.
And I brought some equipment. I bought a Akai 950, and Lee had something, and just brought my stuff to his house, and was like, yo, let's just record. Come in the studio. And I brought Lee to the studio, and then Lee started learning the machines. The next you know, we was making some music, but it was like early 90s,
Right.
you know, up until, you know, that first record. And then I introduced Lee to my other people, so Farrell, Apani, and then Lee started getting busy after that.
Yeah, Lee did a lot after that, right?
Yeah. Then he started working with Farrell, then I couldn't get more lead time, you know. But then they did Simon Says, you know.
Nice. That was a big record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, where was I getting at?
Well, I was just trying to get a taste of what that time in Jamaica was too, because you were there at the beginning, and really, especially, you know, Organized first and obviously their second album were these, I feel like, huge cultural contributions to hip hop. I mean,
Yeah.
both records are so great for so many different reasons, and sometimes I'll be more in the mood for the first album, and sometimes, I mean, Stress. I mean, listen, I love Equinox too, and I'm a big fan of that group. But there's something so great about their debut album too. It was like just pure in a way, you know, like and great. I mean,
It was. I was there in the studios for a lot. I was in college, so I was going. You know, I wasn't sitting around all day.
Right.
But you know, I wasn't thinking I was going to be a rapper so much at the time. It was hobby for me. It was fun.
Right.
But you know, they gave me my shout outs. I went around with them to the shows, OCs. It was a big Queens clique, you know.
Right.
And even recording it was like you bumped heads with, you know, Large Professor. You bumped heads with all these Queens cats.
Right.
You know, it was like, I remember you asked me about the Queens situation. It was like, you know, Kwame also went to our school.
Okay.
So
nice.
I passed his house to get to Farrell. Farrell still lived across the street. You know, we go get a haircut from the barbershop, and the barbers was Fredro and Sticky Fingers.
Nice. Onyx.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and then, you know, you had your Lost Boys also.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I also used to go to another barbershop in Hollis. My man Shaft used to cut on Murdoch, and we used to watch TV up in there, and he's like, who the fuck are these dudes? Funny clothes. They from Queens, man. It's Tropical Quest. They right down the block. They ain't from Queens. It's the yard, 116. You know?
Right.
And then Omega Supreme, I gotta get back to that story. He used to, you know, he used to know everybody because he worked at Russell Simmons. So he knew all these people, and he used to introduce me. I met Busta Rhymes, you know, and leaders way back then.
Right.
He was like, yo, Complex, sing happy birthday, Busta. It's my birthday, 19. I'm like, who the fuck is Busta? You know? And all these people, I used to go to Q-Tip's house, and he used to talk about how he used to pour his tapes.
Right.
He had no, you know, machines.
Yeah,
And they was
that's
on their
amazing.
second album. And I was like, what?
It was already low in theory,
Yeah.
right?
And then Malik used to be there. And then I used to go to Jerobi House in Hempstead. One time I went to Jerobi House with Money B.
Wow. Raw fusion.
Yeah. And Money B was,
Digital underground
yeah,
rap.
and he was playing me all these tracks from Shock G. And I used to take him to the mall, show him off, like, it's my man from Digital Underground. You know, and he played me this one track, and me and Money B was in the car rhyming over it, which ended up turning to be I Get Around.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it was like, dang, he got that record. But so back to Andre, when he came back from tour from CC Peniston, I played him some demos I did, and he got upset. You know, it was like, yo, why you do that? And I was like, yo, man, this is complex. You know, I did a song where every verse was a different beat. You know, that's when I was making beats too.
Yeah, cool.
You know, I used to come to Farrell, but yo, help me with the drums. And I used to make beats, and I had to do it all because I couldn't wait.
Right.
And OC used to want some of my beats and this and that. And then people started acting funny, you know. Then I pressed the record up myself. You know, Farrell did one beat, Prince Poe did one beat, and Lee did the other. And people started, you know, acting like they owned me or something, you know.
Mm.
And, you know, I just started doing my own thing.
Right.
So by the second record, Visualize, then I started really traveling and doing things.
Right, right.
And then Omega Supreme wasn't nowhere in my cipher. So then maybe 2008 is when Farrell called me, was like, yo, call Dre, Omega Supreme. He's in the hospital and he's about to die.
Damn.
And he got cancer, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't even know how to call somebody like that. You know, I ain't spoken to him pretty much my whole... I seen him one time and he was like, I want to congratulate, maybe like 98. I want to congratulate you on your success. I've been seeing you. It might have been a little out. I think I had a few records out. So I was like, you know, thanks. But it was other personal business that separated him and a lot of my other friends. Right. It was some girls, something.
Gotcha.
That's a whole nother movie.
Right.
But so a lot of my friends that I was tight with, like 5 of them, comedian Kenny Williams, you know, it was a good set of people that could have been bigger if we all stayed a unit, but didn't. So when I went to the hospital, you know, to see him, I remember Farrell dropped me off, and it was hard to find him. It took me like a half hour to find the room. I finally get to the room. I go in, the doctor's going at the same time, and he looked like he was already dead. He was in bad shape. Mm-hmm. He was, ugh. I had to step out the room, doctor had to talk, so I'm sitting in the hallway waiting, and then the other friends came that I haven't seen in 15 years. And they were like, yo, man, yo, you know, and it was like I always been like an outcast with them, you know what I'm saying? So then, but for the circumstances, people was like forgiving, and everybody was cool.
Right. So
we get in there, and Omega was like, yo, I've been teaching Chris how to work the machines. So Mortal was like, you gotta come to the crib, you know, I'm making beats. So after the funeral, I went to check out his beats back in South Jamaica, Queens, back to where I came from. He's playing me all this stuff. I'm like, wow. So then we started recording like 08, 09 or something, you know, and I said, let's do a whole album in the light of Omega Supreme. And that's when I started recording again after like 2 years of not recording anything. Last thing was the Poly, you know, and I did commercial rap, Forever New, and started doing all these songs, and did like 10 songs, and then I recorded. He played me this beat for King Kong Love, and I recorded something else. I had somebody else do the singer dude sing something, and he left. And I never did this, like just have a track. I sat there for 20 minutes. And I was like, yo, turn the mic on. He came back down. I just went in the booth and recorded that King Kong Love right there.
So those records are on the most current album, yeah?
Yep.
And that came out just top of last year or something?
No.
Brand new?
May 30th.
Ah, see? Caught me slipping. So it's brand new.
Yeah.
And so you did a lot of those songs you performed at the party, right?
Yeah.
Too. So you were telling me that you had done some music videos for it too, right?
Yeah, I've shot like 5 videos
That's amazing.
for the album. I did an EP as well.
What's that called?
I'm in my own lane.
Cool.
And I released that probably top of the year, I think. No, I released that on my birthday, April 5th.
Sweet. So obviously making videos in 2017 is probably a little easier than it was in 1993 and 4.
Yeah, it is.
When's the last time you shot anything on film? It's been a while, yeah?
I haven't shot anything on film myself.
Did you do Underground Up on... That was on film, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
right?
no, no.
Video?
That was video.
Okay.
I think that was a high E.
Yeah, it was high because it was a little raw. Because Desire actually looked pretty dope. That was like early red camera or whatever. What do you remember? What that was like a nice.
That was a Panasonic something.
What do you shoot with now?
The last few videos I shot with a Canon 300C.
Oh, cool.
And I did the King Kong Love, and then. Sometimes I use my 7D, Canon 7D for some of them because they're just so low budget. Just use that. But people are like, "Yo, what'd you shoot on? This looks."
Right.
You know, whatever. But I did 2 videos for the EP and 5 for this album. I didn't release one of them yet. I was gonna release them all at one time, like Beyonce. That was my plan. But I couldn't get my website to flow properly. But I want to shoot another video soon for this song "I Gotta Get Home" with General DV, Sadat X, and Prince Poe.
Oh, dope.
And Nadine Michelle. And people seem to gravitate to that song. And I got a real crazy concept. It's not first time, but it's a conscious song. You know, I'm talking about some things, but it's a little different from me.
Cool. I can dig it. Yeah, that's amazing. I mean that you did all those videos too. And they're all on. You have a YouTube page too, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure what it's called.
That's fine. No. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think. I mean, I dig it, man. It was so great to see you performing it because it had been a long time when I just saw you here in Brooklyn. But just that, we have. Not only do we have some professional history, but I've been a fan since that first single, like so many people. So since the kind of the early days, and knowing that there was you had this, that you were part of this kind of world of hyper creative MCs from Queens, organized Prince Poe and Pharaoh and OC and the whole kind of world that revolves around that they're a part of, rather, because there's so many incredible people out of that camp, and that you've always just kind of kept your your style intact and stuff, and your sense of humor too, and sense of storytelling and shit.
Yeah.
So it's just something I dig, man. I'm glad that we could find a time, because you're running around you got a job today, if I'm not mistaken, to go to. You came from one. You got one this weekend. So I just appreciate your time, and thanks so much, man. Keep it going, please.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, man. Peace, man. Yes. Shout out to Mr. Complex. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, every episode is edited and engineered by my man CJ Stewart. Good looking out. And if you like this, please subscribe on iTunes, on SoundCloud, anywhere you can find good podcasts. I like to think that you'll be able to find the house list. Yes, with Peter Gossin, me, your host. So look out for a lot of forthcoming incredible episodes. I'm going to go to California in the very near future, depending on when you listen to this. So I'll be recording many episodes out there. And so dig it, y'all. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys. Rest in peace to Prodigy. One love, y'all. I'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah, this song right here, it's about nothing. But it's the way that I'm saying nothing that just makes it something. So I'm saying just ease back and relax. So I'm about to get into this. Times like this, the mic is all that I care for. Therefore, I get busy, bear. More hair hole, I know you fiend for the hip. Check the lip, up from off the corners, now jump on it. I know you wanna cut the rug, but you we got to go my mystery. Meet the making history, full of faith, face full of bull, makes my grass grow. Recruit my pants, troop artists, wanna show my ass. Yo, I break sweats cause I'm broke. I don't because you funny folk. I poke, putting to alleviate tension. I must mention, I'm competition. If you abbreviate, flex, complex. If you want it all straight and forward, march or arch rhythms that stiff you up like starch. You catch cuts from the creases, but what's out? Why eat them seeds with the Reese's? See beats is buttercups. I put the ooey up in your butt, so what's up? What it look like when skills is pressed up on the mic a little? Something like this. Relax, my sharp as an axe. Coordinate rhymes to beats like something has to slacks. But if you want axe, you cannot afford to risk. Cause complex will compact the disrespect. The object is to shipwreck your ship. My lip takes trips and flights. It takes days and nights to see sights to force fights. But what to do when I'm reaching no new heights? Because I'm not the plane, you let me explain. It's something with the brain, it's a flow against the grain. I am not the plane, you let me explain. It's something with the brain, it's a flow against the grain.
You know what I know, see what I see. You know what I know, see what I see.
It's something with the brain, it's a flow against the grain. Up, down, on south side, I'm doing a bump with your brain. Something like rain, see when I come down out vein. Lyrics through your body, I make rupture a vessel. I make suplex to rap with the words that wrestle. I took a test to become an MC, even with cheat notes. Teachers couldn't see O-M-P-L-E-X. But if she saw us, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, we eat her head up down next. I daydreamed all the time, I write the rhymes to bed. I read Calvin and Hobbes, I got jobs instead of letting life set me, get me to the point where forget me nots and being dropped like this in the bucket with the switch. Viciously, I cross heads just to hear them squish. Cause it's a fat Santa sample, and I be living a life just to be given an example. Because I am not the plane, you let me explain. There's something with the brain, it's a flow against the grain. I am not the plane, you let me explain. There's something with the brain, I flow against the grain.
You know what I know, see what I see. You know what I know, see what I see.
It's something with my brain, it's a flow against the grain. I got more rhymes than you got teeth. I got a high-strung tongue, oh, what a relief it is when I get business. Like a toy store, the day before Christmas. Miss acts Mr. Brother man acts sister. How I twist her, on this it's a lyrical vista. Cuff when I puff mics, I string out dikes with my teeth square. I swear like a sailor, you get hemmed up and pressed up like permanent press. But I'm not a tailor, so don't bring me your dirty ring of them styles. Cause I pull up the iron, I pull a smile on Mad Lion's grill. Because I'm mad ill, I ain't lying. The truth was set me to freestyle off the dome. That's just bait, I'm the master as I come into my own realm. You're overwhelmed and like wow, and wow spell backwards. You can't reach the level, nor the level spell backwards. I got a stack of words too high for you to reach, and you can stay after school, but the teacher can't teach what he don't know. To yo, mommy, yo check it out. I am not the plane, you let me explain. It's something with the